I'm Rebecca Friedman. I am the founding director of the Wolfsonian Public Humanities Lab at Florida International University, and I'm also an associate professor of history. And I would like to thank very much Embas, Colette, Mello for organizing all of this, taking care of all the logistics, so thank you so much. And to John Stewart, who could not be here tonight. Also colleagues at the Jewish Museum, where we will have our last event on Sunday. And I also want to thank the Florida Humanities Council, who helped to fund this project, and my mother, Ellen Friedman, who really did all the work behind the scenes. Okay, and everybody else for being here. So today is the second of our 3 events. And if you were here with us last week, we kind of laid the foundation for the story of the Refuseniks on Miami Beach. We learned a little bit about the demographics, about the kind of activism, how individuals got here, what they found when they came, and of course we saw the photographs by Gary Monroe, and then he also gave us a tour of his entire career, which was quite amazing, that we got to see last time as well. So tonight we are, and here's Professor Steer. Hello. And so tonight we are going to move from the kind of visual landscape of stories and talk more about kind of personal and individual narratives. And we have one lovely family who has agreed to share their own personal story and answer questions with us this evening. And I will introduce them. Actually, I might as well introduce them now since I just mentioned them. The Glazers are here with us tonight. 3 generations. Let's have a round of applause for that. That's pretty cool. We have Anatoly Glazer, who was born in, you wrote it, so I'm going to say it, 1952. He has a master's. You said it.
That was a secret.
I didn't know. As I looked at it, I realized, but that's okay. He has a master's degree from Lviv Polytechnic Institute. He was considered himself a Refusenik from 1982 to 1986, so for 4.5 years. He came to the United States in 1987 and was a real estate broker and developer and landlord. He was the sponsor of a few Jewish organizations and also the publisher and editor of Novaya Florida magazine, which was put out in Russian. He became a kind of self-created, in his own words, journalist, writer, publisher in Russian magazines of the U.S., of Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Germany, and Canada. And his principal publication was printed in 2014, and we get to have a look at it tonight, which is just so lovely. Kolbasnaya emigratsiya, which means sausage emigration, I believe. So maybe you'll explain that to us a little bit later, what that in fact means.
And they're for sale, I believe.
No, they're not. He said no sales this evening. You have to get with him and get that another time. And we have with him tonight his wife, Broyna Glazer, who herself is an accountant, a bookkeeper, and an artist. Thank you so much for being here. And we have her examples of her beautiful artwork tonight to look at. So thank you for that. We also have children and grandchildren here, including their daughter, Maya Cramer. Did I get that right? Maya Cramer, thank you so much for being here. And we all look forward to hearing from you, whatever you're willing to share this evening. Please.
Can you define refuse?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
I'm getting there. All right. So allow me to spend a few moments defining Refusenik, kind of, and really to put my historian's cap on for a moment and talk a little bit about what life was like in the USSR, very briefly, for Refusenik families. I'm going to explain that. So I'm just going to skirt the surface a very little bit. The term Refusenik, which is the kind of anglicized version of the Russian word отказник, right? Am I right about that? Okay, you Russian speakers, отказник, which spread across the globe in the early 1980s and was basically used to describe hundreds of thousands of Soviet Jews and also, by the way, other minorities, ethnic Germans of the Volga region, for example, who were refused permission to emigrate, right? So that's where you get the Refusenik. But отказник means what? That just means like refused. Yeah, it just basically means refused. It was anglicized to be Refusenik. And so, as with many ethnic minorities in the Soviet Union, in the kind of late Khrushchev, late Stalin, Khrushchev, and then Brezhnev era, Soviet Jews, like other ethnic minorities, were essentially not allowed to express their culture very much. to speak Yiddish, reveal their ethnic background. As a popular joke, because the Brezhnev era is very famous for jokes, which I think those of you who have spent any time in Russia know. So here's a popular joke at the time, which kind of sums up for the Refuseniks how there was kind of no way out of their situation, how the situation was kind of a trap. So it's a joke, but it's not a joke, which is essentially true of all the Brezhnev era jokes. A Jew submits his papers for an exit visa. He's asked why he wants to leave. I have 2 reasons, he says. My neighbor in the communal apartment keeps telling me that as soon as Soviet power collapses, he's going to kill me and my family. But you know very well, the other person says, that Soviet power will never collapse. That's my other reason, he says. Okay, so on that not so funny note, because it's actually not funny at all, right? Allow me to read a little bit from the memoir of someone called Maxim Schreier, Leaving Russia, which he wrote his book. It's a Jewish story that he really wrote about his own personal experience of having been in the situation of being a refusing. I'm going to read very, very little, okay? Because I think it's quite beautifully written. So he writes in his prologue, "We just got a call from the office of visas," said my mother's voice, and then it stopped, choking on the unpronounceable words. I can't. The black receiver of the street payphone felt cold and heavy in my hands. On my left, Moscow's midday traffic flowed down Leninsky Prospect, on one side of it forging ahead to the city center, the other moving in the direction of the city's southern-western outskirts. On my right, a tall wrought iron fence marked the western boundary of the Moscow University campus. Such ominous iron fences typically surrounded Soviet institutions, giving their workers, students, and patients the feeling of enclosure. Mama, what's wrong? They said they won't be granting our requests. They would be, I just said won't, didn't I? They said they would be granting our requests. My mother's voice laughed and sobbed into the heavy black receiver. Okay, so she found out. We would be leaving at long last after 9 years, I was thinking as I ran across Leninsky Prospect to the other side in violation of traffic regulations. I felt that the walls and fences which had stood in the way of my family's future were falling. The spring of 1987, when the authorities finally granted our request to emigrate, my mother was turning 47. My father was 51. The Soviet imagination had dubbed us Atkazniki, from the Russian Atkaz, refusal, meaning the ones who were denied or refused permission to leave the Soviet Union. In translation, the word Refusnik had acquired an ambiguity whose irony was hardly intentioned. The Soviet authorities, not the Jews, were refusing. Unless, of course, you consider the fact that we, the Refuseniks, had refused the ticket to Soviet paradise. And what follows in the narrative and in the life of Maxim Schreier was, as he says in this passage, that from 1979 to 1987, his parents had essentially experienced, and he had experienced, what many Jews had experienced was kind of persecution and violence by the Soviet secret police, by the Soviet authorities. His parents, like so many, were themselves highly educated professionals, right? The author himself was born in Moscow amidst the kind of intellectual milieu of that time in Moscow. So for Schreier, when his parents applied to leave and become refuseniks, his childhood, he writes, ended because his parents were essentially fired and made outcasts in society. They couldn't, make a living, so forth and so on, as we heard about last week. So this book also raises so many questions that I hope we can get to tonight and also again on Sunday, not only about the experiences of individuals under the thumb of the Soviet regime, but also what the past means in the present. How do generations contend with the loss, with the distance, with the stories of their elders? Of course, these categories and these questions could be asked maybe of any group, so I throw that out there too as a thought bubble, right? At any time. Anyone who leaves a regime, a homeland behind that is persecuting them and oppressing them, jailing them, and so forth. On that note, allow me to turn the floor over to our beautiful, lovely guests who have agreed to be here tonight, the Glazers, in whatever order you choose, however you choose. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anatoly Glazer 40 years ago in the Soviet Union, they tried to shut up my mouth. Now in America, they try to do same thing. So I cannot, I'm learning how to talk with a mask. I'm sorry, I'm fully vaccinated. And yes, we've been in refuse. I never heard this word. We have a own word for that at Kaznik. We won at refusing. We've been 4.5 years. It was a terrible years for Jewish people. I have to correct Ms. Friedman that another ethnical group, it was a 1% from all people. 99% it was a Jewish people. And whole system, it was anti-Semitic system. It's we know that there are another people, let's say, they refuse to give a permission to live to a Baptist, Christian Baptist. Yes, they refused, but that was a small portion. I never hear some in other people. So I have all my 3 generation here. I have my daughter who was born in refuse. And I don't know if she remember, but she's a Refusnik too. She was 3 years in refuse. And now I have a 3rd generation of refuse. My granddaughter, Maya Cramer. Whatever she say, you cannot refuse. So my refuses continue. So in 1984, we decided to apply to leave Soviet Union. We was the last from our family. Our family, my wife, brothers, and my sister already left Soviet Union in 1970s, and it was such a bad time that you apply to Department of Visa. It's in police, and they gave you application. This application is a catch. I want to tell you, it's not a simple you fill up and you give them back and that's all. Not even money or fee, it doesn't matter. Matter is you have to go around the town and collect like 50 different signatures from you don't know when money to libraries, you don't know when anything to power company, to gas company, to telephone company. And the most important, you go to your own job and go to your boss and say, hey, I'm going to live to Israel or United States. They knew everything. We have Israeli visas, but everyone in KGB, they know what that means, and they completely knows not less than us. And as soon your boss got this application, he said, you have to leave. Refuse means you have to leave any job. And what to do? Nobody answer. We lost our jobs, our income, and actually our apartment too. Because part of this application was part of this application you have to give them a key from your apartment. It's not your apartment; it's a government apartment. So you collect every sign. You go to library. She look on you like you are, the Nazi or something like a crocodile. They sign, but it's okay. You left them, but to leave a work, you don't know what to do. You go to another to apply for another job, and they said, "Oh, we don't need people who to try to leave." So no way. Finally, my personal friend, he was in a high position. He took me. He gave me a job, and his boss, he was a Russian communist guy, but smart and normal. He asked him just a simple question: is he okay if he is a good worker? And my friend said, yes, I guarantee. And he said, I don't care about him. And he did a big deal for me. So I have to tell you that in any regime, you always have a people, that side and this side. We have a Jewish people, and I have to tell you, who refuse to say hello to you. They scare. And we don't blame them. They go on another side of the street, because they don't want to meet you because you already, you, how to say in English, предатель? Как сказать предатель?
Parasite, traitor.
Trader, yes. Yes. And then that was when in 30 days we received an answer from KGB. They said, no. I asked them, why no? They said, we don't have word to word. We have no ability to let you go. Just 3 words. I said, what that means? What kind of ability you need to leave Soviet Union? I said, that's all I can tell you. They was instructed this way. They don't have to tell you even one extra word. We have no ability to let you go. We didn't know, first time we didn't know that will continue 4.5 years. You came to apply second time in 6 months. In 6 months you receive same thing. It was a blue card. We have no ability. And it was like 9 times. And then when in 4.5 years, when government changed and finally Gorbachev came to the power, which we Russian Jews, we always will thanks to Gorbachev because he changed situation. He said, let's Jewish people go. Why? Because it was not because he's such a nice guy or he loves Jews, no. Because if it's American Jews and worldwide Jews, they push. They go on a demonstration, let my people go, and and that's Olympic Games and etc. They sell Jews. We was like monets, they sell us, on exchange of contract, on exchange of peace, or exchange of gas. They sell us. So, but we don't care. We live our life and we have to go. And that's finally in 4.5 years when we received permission. When we received in 1986, we received permission to go. With people, I remember as now it was a smaller room than this, and we have like 10, 12 Jewish people, and they even scared to tell to each other that they receive a permission. Did you receive a permission? No. That's what I said. People scared. This is a system. Why I have to tell you that? I'm going my way, and that's it. Nothing you can do. You go to that room, and 3 people in uniform sitting there, and they said, "Why you have to go? We know you don't go to Israel. You go to United States." And they call my father-in-law. Her father, he's passed away already, and he said, and they told him, "Do you know he gonna leave you somewhere in Europe? He gonna leave you." And the guy, old man, like now me, he's scared. He's scared. It was each small thing against us. It's a system and complex of different action against Jewish people. So I think it was heroic act from side of Jewish people. In 2014, I published a book. It says sausage immigration. I explained to you why sausage immigration. Now, Soviet Union collapsed. Now we have Russia and new propaganda. The same people in the same places. New propaganda say, Jews. You know why they left Soviet Union to America? Because they left for sausages, better life. Nothing to do with anti-Semitism. That's why my book called the kielbasa. And they said, oh, they left for a kielbasa. Not for, this is propaganda against us again. And that's my book, which called Sausage Immigration, where I wrote step by step in Russian language, was published in few countries, what mean sausage immigration on your oven skin. When we receive, first they did, if you give them application, they have to do some kind of meeting of workers, hundreds of people, and the main communist said, you know what, this guy wants to leave Russia, wants to leave Soviet Union. What do you think about that? What do you think? He's a worse person. He's evil, right? And that's what. And you sitting like you kill someone, or you don't know what to do, and people think you are right. People understand. People, Russian people, Ukrainian people, they understand clearly that you are right. But system, because we receive a lot of support, and some people came to us and say, hey, you are lucky. We want to be with you. And then when you receive, finally, in the 4.5 years, you receive a permission. It's already different color of card, and then different application, many pages. Then you have to give your apartment key. You go to mayor office, and he will, I need a signature. I said, okay, give me a key. Where should I go with the 2 small children? I don't care. It says, you see what it says over here? Receive a key. And that's it. I said, let me go to some ghetto. I'll go. Where should I go? February. I don't care. And they put it seal on your door. I know Jewish people who broke those seal in the same. I know one of my friends with a newborn baby. She broke a seal and moved back. But where should you go? Of course, those apartments immediately, because there was a shortage of apartment, immediately go to friends of, to policemen, to like this. And finally, when we receive, you still cannot say a bad words about the system up to the last minute when you cross a frontier to the Austria. In Austria, you are free. You are free. You can say whatever you want. When we come to Vienna and then to Italy, to Rome, Italian policemen with the guns secure us. We could not understand what's those poor Jews. What's the problem with us? They said, we know what we're doing. We don't know what's going on in Western Europe with the Jews, and they secure whole train, and with the guns. And finally, after 2 months in Italy, 1 month in Austria, that's the process how to get to United States. Finally, they borrow us the money on a plane. We pay off years after, and we came to Brooklyn. That's when we came to Brooklyn in a Jewish center. They invite us in the back room, and whereas people give away garbage, forks, dishes, and say, Anatoly, you can take whatever you want. No, we said, oh, look how nice. I'm just asking you, don't invite me in the back room. We are okay. We are okay now. My children have a master degree. My son, I call him a bookkeeper, but he's actually a partner at JP Morgan. So, and my daughter also, she's in the business. We are okay. We thanks this country, and we hope in other people who come in legally to this country will find better life. That's all I would like to say. Thank you. If any questions, please ask.
So Maya,
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Had you been to America before? And
No,
and
never been in any foreign country.
And what surprised you about coming to this country? Was it what you expected or not?
First surprise was in the JFK airport. I was they checking us, and my family is sitting. My wife come and said, "Hey, policeman, stop asking something in English. We have no idea." I'm still speaking with a heavy Russian 4 years ago, Zippo. So, and two policemen staying with near my father and say something. They talk something. You know, what do you want, guys? They said, "Food." I said, "What food?" "Food." I don't know. Then I see a small dog like this, and it says "Food Patrol," "Food Control," and I said, "Dad, you have some food?" "Yeah, I have it in my pocket, a piece of," and they gave me in a plane. I did not eat. I safe. I said, "Mom, put in the garbage." As soon he put in the garbage, they left. The dog left us, so we was free. That was my first surprise. Да, слушаю вас.
So I'm the little girl in that photograph. Actually, we came to America from Odessa in 1978
Right.
to Miami Beach. So we've lived here ever since. So my father and I, because my mother doesn't have love for Odessa or the system, went back to visit our family in 1990. So when we went to, it was a long trip back then, on Aeroflot and all that. So when we were in Moscow, we were supposed to take a connecting flight from Moscow to Odessa. They detained my father and I. They put me in a room. They put my father in a room. And they questioned us for hours. "Why did you leave Mother Russia?" You know, and it was horrible. It was really bad. So I was 19 at the time, in 1990. Have you been back to Russia since?
No, I never been in Soviet Union, but
Okay,
I've been
so
twice.
I was just wondering if you
No,
had
no,
the
I've
same
been
experience.
twice. 2 years ago, I've been in Ukraine, and 10 years ago, I've been in Ukraine. I want to tell you, many things has changed.
No, it's horrible.
No. 2 years ago, something changed. I'm a honest guy. I'm telling you, in my city, Chernovtsi, in the western Ukraine, it used to be one synagogue, small like this room. Now it's a 3 synagogue, and I see Hasidic boys walking in a Kiev openly. This picture never seen in my life. Now it's. So something really changed. I have a picture on my cell phone. I can show. I talked to rabbi, and it's all of them Israeli rabbis, and they police secure those synagogues. So they have a kosher store now. Never in my time. So little bit. I'm not saying there is no anti-Semitism in the Ukraine, but I'm saying this something changed. Something changed. What was surprise? I continue to, sir. My first salary surprised me when I work on the 4th day and still continue to work. My salary was $2.50 per hour. You probably don't remember. I don't know if you remember this time. Yeah. But when we went to supermarket in Brooklyn, and I put a trolley like this. I said, "We're not gonna die, this week." And this was from 1 week. I can feed my family 4 people whole month. That was completely surprised me. Of course, that food I never buy anymore. It's a chicken for 19 cents per pound. It was a bread, 25 cents. You remember that, right? No more. My doctor said, "Are you what?" They don't allow me to eat anything, So, but that time I was really surprised how honest this country, that on a 1 week salary, I can feed 4 people for a whole month, and we're not gonna die without food. That was number one surprise. Yes, ma'am.
So, I love the details and practicality as you're telling your story. I mean, I remember the Refuseniks, I remember American Jews raising money, I remember the selling, I
Right.
remember all of that. But can you define what made you so brave? I mean, what was life like on a daily basis that made you say, I just don't?
How I understand, I answer the way how I understood.
How?
We was not brave at all. We are not a fighter. We are not those people who call dissidents. I don't know how to translate.
Yes.
Dissidents, we are not.
But you had consequences. You knew you were going to have consequences.
Of course, but we are not a dissident. Where people call me and said, let's go to put a chain to KGB. No.
No, but I mean, your daily, like you went to work, you came home. In other words, what was your existence like, not as a refusenik, but as living in the Soviet Union, that made you say, I'm willing to lose my apartment, I'm willing to lose my job, I'm willing to be a reject from, I'm willing to have all those daily consequences because this is so bad. What was this?
In my book, when they said the Jews live for sausages, my first answer is we have a sausage not less than our Russian neighbors. Same thing. Same thing. So this is not true. If it's a professor left and doctors left and engineer left, so we was not hungry like we did not go because of only one thing. I always underwrite. This is anti-Semitism. We left Soviet Union because we was not sure about the future of our children, grandchildren. We seen more and more pressure. No religious, no any tradition, no any chuppah, no any nothing. No any songs, no any language, Jewish language, Yiddish, nothing. Less and less and less. More, you cannot grow on a job. You cannot grow on a job. You cannot be a boss. You can be a good worker, but not. This was impossible to stay. We understood what's gonna be our future, and that's the main reason. If I answer to you right.
There were quotas, right?
Huh?
There were quotas for university.
Quotas, yes. One time, I don't know if you remember such a communist leader as Nikita Khrushchev.
Yes.
He said, I would like to see same percentage of Jews in a coal mine like I see them in universities. So another thing was if Jews was 2% of all population of Soviet Union, so no more than 2% in university. No more anywhere in a good position, which is, I want to tell you, it wasn't not 2%, it was 3 or 4%, but people cover themselves, they don't want to, if it's a mixed marriage, no Jewish children. Yeah, assimilation completely.
So I was there in '96. My cousin's cousin was head of the Joint Jewish Committee in Russia, and so his job was to educate Jews, to traditions. So we went to the main synagogue, and I learned all of that, and it was pretty stunning to me.
I can say in 1991, when we already was in America, Soviet Union collapsed. They said one of the reason it was Chernobyl, which I've been there, and I did something for Chernobyl. I worked there, and then Afghanistan, Russian Afghanistan, and many such a thing, and Jewish immigration. That's of course make a collapse of Soviet Union faster. But in 1991, when USSR collapsed, I cannot say. Many things change, and I cannot tell you because I was already here. Over here, I want to tell you that there was a lot of demonstration in Washington, in New York, in New Jersey. A lot of people put money for that. I remember, if you remember, Mayor Kahane.
Oh, yeah.
He did a lot of things. I was a member. Only 1 year when I came over here. Yes, and then that's what it is. That's what it is. So we thanks to American Jews for help. Yes, yes.
I wonder if your daughter would like to.
My daughter, I want to. You tell like you been on a birthday party in New Jersey in a big synagogue. Rich people make the birthday party for her daughter, and they invite us, like a Soviet Jewish. And my daughter was there on it, and I don't know if you remember that. I don't know if you. That was very nice. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll bring you back up. I don't really have much to share. I came when I was 3 years old. I mean, I know a lot of the stories, obviously, from growing up. I think my experience is just how my parents were just growing up in Brooklyn and Staten Island with immigrant Russian parents. I think my experience is just that. They were, scarred, I guess, a lot of trauma. They weren't maybe, kind of like the weird immigrants. Like, if you see my baby pictures, I'm dressed really weird with the high socks, things like that. I didn't have the coolest clothes. I didn't have expensive stuff maybe, but we had a good life. My parents did, they worked hard and, really quickly they, we were okay, and we moved a lot from, a smaller apartment to a bigger apartment, then to a nicer neighborhood, then to another nice, so it took time. It wasn't until I think I was already in the 6th grade.
And she has 6 bedrooms now.
It wasn't until I was like in the 6th grade where we lived in like a nicer house and went to a better school. So those took time. They weren't necessarily friends with maybe my parents' friends. So it's just a different kind of the immigrant story. They didn't understand some of the literature that come home from school, or they trusted no one at all times. I always remember any little thing. Can you really be friends with this person? It's like a 7-year-old girl. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, why can't I be? But so just things that my brother and I laugh about now because we think about our childhood. But we always understood because we understand that the trauma that they went through. But for us, just being a kid in America, it's just kind of more like a funny thing for my brother and I because we have a lot of weird, so to speak, stories of things that they did. But that's really, definitely fortunate that, what they went through created a better life for me, and obviously for my daughter. Now I'm married with 2 kids of my own, and after Brooklyn, I went to college, and then we settled down in South Florida about 10 years ago.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I can't help it. If you don't mind, if it's,
Sure.
I'm curious if growing up, if you remember being part of any Jewish community in Brooklyn, and then related to that, I'm curious if you personally have any curiosity about Ukraine, Russia, actually going, have you been, will you go, is it part of your own sense of self?
So growing up, yeah. So once I got a little bit older and we moved to Staten Island, there was a Jewish community there, and they, so we didn't, again, they were always not used to the American way, so to speak, the way right now, I'm Jewish, I'm married to, my husband's Jewish, we're members of a temple, or we pay for a membership. We didn't really know, they didn't know the ins and outs of that, but we did, they enrolled me in something called USY. I forgot what that stands for even at this point, but it's obviously, it's a big Jewish organization for youth group. And so I actually did that my whole life. So I have a ton of friends growing up from USY. I ended up actually going on Birthright when I was in, I think, sophomore in college. That's actually where I met my husband. So we went on, that was my first time in Israel, but I went on Birthright. So yeah, I definitely had a Jewish sense growing up. And then I
The
apologize.
other part of the question was
Oh, if I'm
about
going to-
Russia, Ukraine.
I
if you
have
any
not
agenda
gone.
there.
I think that I'm kind of like my passport says I was born in Ukraine, so I'm always like, oh, if I go there and they detain me, it's
That's
a
what they did to me. That's what they did.
so I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know. But my parents say that they were just there 2 years ago, and they really did have a good time. And they said that they felt fine going back and forth. But I don't speak Ukrainian. My mom actually, they speak Ukrainian, but I couldn't have a conversation. I do understand Russian. I can speak Russian, but at this point, times have changed so much. It's Ukraine. Everything's there in Ukrainian. So, and as far as going to Russia again, I don't know. I'm still hearing it's not the greatest place in the world. So I don't know if I have a big desire to go there. So we'll see, maybe one day. For now, I'm kind of staying put. But I do feel very grateful and very lucky that my parents came here, and we really are lucky living in America. And I sometimes feel like not everyone, there's a lot of talk and not everyone realizes, but we really are truly very, very lucky here.
Thank you.
And that's it. Any questions?
I guess one of the things we wanted to do is if anybody in the audience, I'm looking at you, Angela, or anyone else, would like to share their own personal story, up to you. So we were wondering if anyone wanted to
I'll do it
that.
with you on video.
Another time? Okay, that's fine.
I don't like public speaking.
That's okay, please. So you're welcome to come up if you're more comfortable that way. That would be great, so we can get you on. Sure. Appreciate that. Thank
No
you.
problem. So my name is Renee Bomser. Please don't mind that I'm keeping my mask on. I worked from 1991 to 1995. I worked in the refugee resettlement program for Jewish Family Service. Here, actually, on this floor, somewhere in this building, which is really funny. And I was the acculturation specialist, so I was the person who was responsible to bring Jewishness and Americanism into the classroom. The emigres, they learned English, ESL classes, and they also learned what it meant to be Jewish, what it meant to be in the United States. There were vocational services. But I wanted to say something about what you said about American Jews. I was one of the first generations after the Holocaust, and I remember at 12 years old, nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about it. And I remember when I was 12 years old, we had the first Holocaust program that I ever went to, and what was it? It was a movie called Night and Fog. I don't know if you know what that is. It is the footage that General Eisenhower decided should be taken when they liberated the camps. So it was a documentary, and you saw what was there. And we were shocked, and the concept of never again was something that developed out of that. And it was like, why didn't anybody do anything? Why didn't we do anything as Jews? What was happening? And so there was a student movement that started. I remember when I was a teenager. I lived in New York. Every Sunday, we went into the city. We stood in front of the Russian mission to the United Nations. Let my people go. There were Russian songs that I don't remember now that we sang that probably were, Refuseniks songs. And a movement sprung up of young people, and we kind of dragged the rest of the establishment Jewish community with us until I think the American Jewish community wouldn't be what it is today without the political activism that happened at that time. And I was actually at the demonstration in Washington in 1987 where there were 250,000 people who showed up. It was one of the most amazing things. So what I can say is the movement to free Soviet Jewry is a success. And whereas in the 30s and the 40s, the community didn't know what to do, and they were new immigrants. So one of the people that I met when I first came to Jewish Family Service was a man named David. David was in his 70s, and he, in the 1920s, he was a communist, idealist. 1920s, he left the United States, Jewish, went to the Soviet Union, because he thought he was going to find utopia. He didn't find utopia, and he wanted to go home. They would not let him leave. They sent him to the Gulag. He was in a labor camp in Siberia. And when things started to open, what you were talking about with Glasnost and, he was allowed to write a letter to his family, but he hadn't seen them for 50 years.
Wow.
So he wrote a letter to his family at the address that he knew they were at when he last saw them. And the mailman, who had been on the route forever, knew the family. They moved. The mailman said, look at this letter. It's from the Soviet Union. It must be important. I'm going to go find them. He found them. He delivered the letter. They sponsored him. He came to this country. He returned to this country, and he wanted to volunteer, and he was my translator. And, you want to talk about stories. So there was one day I was teaching a class about Sukkot, about Sukkos. And I'm saying, the sukkah this, the sukkah that, so you know. So I don't know what's going on. I'm talking, it's dead silent in the class. He's getting redder and redder and redder. I'm going, well, I'm doing something wrong, but I don't know what it is. He said, David, what's the matter? Don't say that word. What do you mean? Don't say that word. What is that word? He said, that's a female dog. I said, okay. There were a lot of things like that, because again, it's a totally different culture. What you were talking about, parents and children. I remember the kids learned English a lot faster than the parents, and so they would be translators for their parents. So they took on the role, really, sometimes of parent to help. And also, I think it was very important. There were traditions that they kept that they didn't know they had. So, for example, we would do something in a class for Rosh Hashanah, and they said, we used to get together in the fall, and we would have a big family meal. We would eat honey cake, lekach. Or somebody died, we went to the funeral. At the end of the funeral, they made a line, they picked up dirt, and they threw it on the casket. So there were things that were kept that they didn't know what they were, but they did it anyway. And David said to me, I made a mistake. Meaning he made a mistake. I did the wrong thing. I went there thinking that I was going to find this utopia. But we are so lucky here in this country, and we don't appreciate it because we don't have to appreciate it, but communism is bad. And don't forget, he would say it all the time, and there were things that I didn't understand. So anyway, those are some of the stories.
Anybody else want to add to the storytelling? How about the granddaughter?
I'll do it with her. I'll do it with you on the video. I don't like
Okay, that's fine. Anyone else?
I'll help myself.
You want me to go up there? Okay. All right. I have it closed, so whenever we're... Anybody else? We're good? All right, well, I just want to thank you so much, entire family, all of you, for coming this evening and for being here with us and for sharing your stories. I hope you'll join us Sunday. I hope everybody will join us on Sunday. Wait, don't go anywhere. I'm going to tell you about Sunday. It's our last event, which is about history and activism. And the final event in this Refuseniks series will feature the history of the movement as told by Ben Nathans, who is a professor of history at the University of Pennsylvania, and he is a specialist on, not only the Refuseniks movement, but human rights in general in the context of the Soviet Union. And he will be joined by Adele and Joel Sandberg, who themselves were leaders in the movement to free Refuseniks. They themselves helped to organize the movement, leading to the passage of the 1974 Jackson-Vanik Amendment that resulted in the release of 50,000 Jews from the USSR. Joel Sandberg served as a president of the SFCSJ and the vice president of the Union of Council for Soviet Jews. And they are going to come with Professor Nathans and share their story at the Jewish Museum of Florida, right down the road somewhere, on this Sunday at 3 p.m. I hope you will all join us then, and I hope you will mingle and talk to each other now. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you.